Welcome back to English 1301 Freshman Composition 1, our virtual classroom. In this video, we're going to discover Topic 3, Lesson 1, and discuss the issue of what is a research paper. Now, in writing a research paper, we need to begin by discussing the differences between an opinion or an interest paper and a formal research paper. Up to now, you worked on an opinion paper, an interest paper. You were the source. You expressed your ideas. You organized it, went through it. A formal research paper differs, and we're going to look at several types of research papers. Just briefly, our type of research paper will be what we call a meta-analysis of literature. We're just going to review what the literature has to say. Up until now, you've been writing papers based on your opinions or your viewpoints. But research is defined to be the systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. A research paper is founded upon the research of a topic of interest based upon the opinion of others. You will be, in other words, you will be given a topic, and I'm going to give it to you shortly. That topic, you will go out and look at references, you will find information about it, you will tell what they had to say about it, and you may draw a conclusion from what they've said at the end of the paper, but you will be referencing the people that you are citing. What are the steps in writing a research paper? Well, it differs. If you are writing a meta-analysis of literature, then you're going to use what I'm going to give you. But if you're doing a statistical research paper and much more scientific study, you would include methodologies and discussions of findings and those things. First thing you're going to do, though, is choose a topic. You're going to find information about that topic. You're going to identify the issues related to your topic. So you choose a topic, you go out and you research the information, and then you're going to organize the information into subtopics. To find information, you're going to locate books, articles, and reports that give you background information and more. And then you're going to create and state your thesis and organize your thoughts and notes. The creating and stating your thesis is just talking about the purpose of your research paper. What are you trying to accomplish? Now, to choose a topic, in our paper that we're going to do, I'm giving you a topic. In your research paper for this course, you will be researching Ignatius, Polycarp, Cyril Richardson, the letter from Ignatius to Polycarp, or any concept mentioned in the letter. I remind you that in your course file, under topic 3, there's a folder, and in that folder, the letter that Ignatius wrote to Polycarp, as translated by Cyril Richardson, is included there. So, if you have a different topic that you would like to write on, something else, I want you to share it with me and let me approve it. For example, you might be interested in the teaching of the 12 apostles, which is a document emerging in the latter part of the first century. There are a lot of other things that you could write on. You're allowed to choose your research paper topic from any of the aforementioned categories. I'm not holding you down to a specific thing. If you write on Ignatius, you could talk about Ignatius, the impact of Ignatius' death in the Colosseum when he was fed to the wild animals. Polycarp was burned alive at the stake when he refused to renounce Jesus, and he did so with the famous quote, "He has not forsaken me these 80 years now, nor shall I forsake him now." Cyril Richardson was a great translator. The letter is fascinating, and the topics mentioned in the letter are fascinating. So you have a lot of leeway in what you may choose to research. Now, in finding information, construction of a research paper requires the pursuit of information about the topic. I don't care what type research paper you're writing, whether it's a simple meta-analysis of the literature or whether it's a much more complex statistical analysis where you start out with hypotheses, whatever, and research questions and hypotheses and then find it as you would do in a quantitative study or a qualitative study. You always, when you're conducting research, go out and look at other sources of information. Now, the sources of information are known as references. So when I use the word references, I'm talking about those items of information, sources of information that you have identified upon which you are developing your research paper. References come from many sources, informants and providers of information. While many references may be used in a paper, every reference must be carefully documented. The reason for this has to do with the concept of plagiarism. Plagiarism is where you take someone else's work and claim it for your own. You don't need to do that. That can get you in lots of trouble. It is unethical. Okay, sources of information that must be referenced. You can go to people with information about the topic. You could go to newspaper, current sources, and there are vast amounts of information on the internet sources. You could read books. You could look at scholarly sources such as journals. Now, I want to point out to you that of all of these areas of information, the scholarly sources, the peer-reviewed journals, are considered at the highest level. A peer review means that a person submits their paper for publication, and it goes out to other experts in the field who validate the content of the paper, the style of the paper. They're a source of validity for the paper. I point out to you that just going out to the internet, you can find all sorts of things. I grew up in Georgia, and of course I tell you now I'm 66 years old. I was born in 1956. I remember when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated and seeing it on television. Dr. King was, in my opinion, a very great man who did much to transform the operation of the United States. He helped combat racial prejudice. And if you go out, and I used to send my students out to look at a site called martinlutherking.org. That's a false site. It's run by white racists. And I sent them there to let them know that you can't believe everything that you read on the internet. You have to triangulate on the truth. And when you use newspaper, current sources, you talk to people, internet sources, those can have questionable validity. Books, likewise, are not nearly as carefully reviewed as scholarly journals, but books have a little bit more validity than these other references. Now, I'm not knocking the internet, because I think the internet is a great source of information. You just have to be able to look at what you're using and validate it to determine whether it's accurate or not. Every source you use will either be a primary source, a secondary source, or a tertiary source. Primary means they're the direct witnesses. The secondary sources are really what you're fundamentally going to use. They provide an interpretation or a commentary on primary sources, and those are things, again, like journal articles. A primary source will be hard to find in regard to Polycarp and Ignatius, because they've been dead for 1,800 years, but you know, some things are pretty cool that you find out there. The tertiary sources are things like the encyclopedia. I remember many years ago when I was in the 8th grade, I was given something to research, and I went out and copied it word for word out of the encyclopedia and turned it in as my work. My teacher, bless her heart, pulled me in and talked to me about plagiarism and said that plagiarism comes from the Latin root meaning to kidnap. And she told me, you have kidnapped someone else's work and claimed it as your own. You're a kidnapper, so quit plagiarizing. Well, you know, you have all of these sources, and there are just vast numbers of sources to research out there. Your job will be to validate them, determine whether they're accurate or not, and then you can organize them into subtopics. When you find a reference, you're going to cite it in your paper. And there are many citation styles that can be used to document references, so many that I couldn't possibly list all of them in this video. But what I have listed are the 3 top ones: APA, the American Psychological Association, 7th edition, Chicago's Manual of Style, 17th edition, and MLA, the Modern Language Association, 9th edition. APA is used, as I'll show you in just a moment, in education and business and psychology. But APA, Chicago, and MLA are the top 3 styles. And we're going to use APA. I put 7th edition. I understand the 8th edition is in progress and all that. That's fine. They keep upgrading. But we will select a specific edition, and 7th being the most common right now with citation engines, we will let you use APA 7th edition. Now, who uses APA style? APA format is widely used by professionals, researchers, and students in the social and behavioral sciences, including fields like education, psychology, and business, which are the fields that most of you are going into. But when you're in a course and you're writing a research paper, always check the guidelines of the instructor, or if you're writing a paper to submit to a journal, you check that out too, because they will tell you what citation style they want you to use, and if that paper is going to be acceptable with them, you're going to have to use the style that they tell you to use. This is the APA Publication Manual 7th edition. This is a picture of it. You can actually own this book if you have extra money laying around the house. However, there's a better option. You can use an online citation generator. We will work with online citations generators in future videos. I will just simply show you how to use one of them and how it gives you the citation that you need, and then how you document your citation in the paper. We will examine this option later in an upcoming video. Now, I don't want you to panic because you've got this. It sounds hard at first. It's really not. You're just simply going out, choosing a topic. You're searching everywhere to find information about that topic. You collect that information, you record where you got it, and then you organize it so that you can use it in your paper. It's not that hard. Of course, you have to reference those references. You have to cite them. You mention it in the paper, and then you put it in a bibliography at the end. But don't panic. You've got this. You're doing good. See you later.